I'm a huge Buckeye fan. If you have a nice jersey, I can help you recruit. Please get these ladies paid. We're going to do what we want, and you're going to have no choice but to respect it. So basically, the NCAA was saying you can't benefit off of your athletic reputation, but we can. It's 5 seconds on the clock. Are you going to fold under the pressure, or are you going to rise to the occasion and make a name for yourself? What's up, guys, and welcome back to the 5 Seconds on the Clock podcast. I am your host, Brandon Williams, and I've been away for a while. It's been almost a month now since I've recorded and released an episode, but I'm back, and I'll try and make sure that never happens again. A month is too long without giving you guys content, especially when there's so much going on in the sports world that I could have been working on and talking about since then. But regardless of the fact, I'm back, ready to talk everything in the sports world. But today I have a particular topic I want to talk about. Before the beginning of this NFL season, Jason Reed, who works for the ESPN's The Undefeated, he's a senior NFL writer for The Undefeated, he said this year will be the year of the black quarterback. Now, I saw this, I read the initial article, and things were great, but I didn't know how accurate Jason's statement or his feelings on this year being a black quarterback actually would end up being. When you look at it now, basically definitely top 3, and maybe even top 4 front runners for the MVP are all black quarterbacks. You have Lamar Jackson right now is the front runner. You have Russell Wilson with Seattle. You have Patrick Mahomes, who missed 2 games, but despite that, he's still coming back. He's getting healthy, and the Chiefs are playing well. 8-4, leading the AFC West. They don't have too much to be worried right now. They have a comfortable lead on Oakland. San Diego wasn't what we thought they might be this year. So the Chiefs are pretty comfortable in the AFC West. And then you have DeShaun Watson. He's looking good. He's been on and off. Basically, DeShaun's performance has been reflective of what the team is doing as a whole. If DeShaun's having a good game, more than likely the Texans as a whole are having a good game, and they'll end up probably winning that game. Sometimes they don't win those games, but that's not really on him. When he performs well, usually the team does well. You'd have to say that those guys are the front runners for the MVP right now, along with position players like Mike Thomas and Christian McCaffrey. Mike Thomas is on pace for a historical season at the wide receiver position. Christian McCaffrey is doing stuff that we haven't seen in a long time in terms of all-purpose yards, and really, he's the best player on that team. He's really leading that team. He kept the team afloat even when Cam was out and when Kyle Allen was doing well. It was really about what Christian McCaffrey was doing. Now the team's struggling. McCaffrey, he's getting his numbers, but I think they were even better at the beginning of the season. I think they need to focus on getting him the ball any way they can, whether it's handing it off or getting it to him, passing it to him from out the backfield. But these quarterbacks are changing the game and the way the QB position is viewed in the NFL. For the longest, when you think of a quarterback, you think of a guy who can sit there and stand in the pocket, who's big, maybe 6'4" and up, who can at least see the field. Over these big offensive linemen, they're not really scramblers, even if they can get it outside the pocket. They're mostly pocket passers, and that's the prototypical quarterback that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl and help you be successful and sustain success at the quarterback position, for years. But now that's changing. And now we have Lamar Jackson, the closest thing we've seen to Michael Vick. And as a matter of fact, we might be disrespecting Lamar by saying that he might even be better than Michael Vick. You just looking at where he is at this point in his career. He's about to break Vick's record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single season. He could do it this week against Buffalo, but he'll definitely make it there this season within the next 2 games, I'm saying at the very least. But if you look at how Baltimore has changed the offense, how they changed the scheme, they have Greg Roman, who was in San Francisco when Colin Kaepernick was playing and having all the success, playing at the height of his career, getting them to Super Bowls and an NFC Championship game. Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator. Now he's there in Baltimore with the other Harbaugh brother. He's with John now instead of Jim. And you see the effect that's having on the Ravens offense. They drafted Lamar, and once they inserted him to the starting lineup, when Joe Flacco went down, it's not like, we drafted him, we're going to force him to play this style of ball. When they drafted him, and finally inserted him into the starting lineup, they changed the offense to fit his style of play. You see how they went to more of a running team at the end of last year, and it was successful, but they've even evolved coming into this season, and you just see they're really unstoppable. They have the best offense in the league, highest scoring team in the league, scoring over 34 points a game. It's something like 38 within their last 4 games, something crazy. But this offense is unstoppable. There's really nobody who can stop them. San Francisco really did a good job. They contained them, but Lamar still had over 100 rushing yards. He had a passing and a rushing touchdown. So even if when you can slow the Ravens offense down, there's no stopping them. San Francisco held them to 20 points, but that wasn't enough. The Ravens still got the job done, and when they got the ball, their defense stopped San Francisco on a 4th and 1, and they got the ball back with 6 minutes left. And the Ravens didn't let San Francisco touch the ball again. Like I said, they got it with 6 minutes left, just over 6. I think it was around 6.5 minutes left. And they kept the ball for the rest of the game and let Justin Tucker come in the game. And they're on an 8-game winning streak, longest streak in the NFL right now. And they're everybody's Super Bowl favorite right now just because not only are they on an 8-game winning streak, but they've been playing tough, quality opponents. The teams that they beat are teams that we are considering to be, the other best teams in the league. They beat the 10-2 Seattle Seahawks. They beat the 10-2 New England Patriots. They beat the 10-2 San Francisco 49ers. So it's not like they're playing against scrubs. They're getting it done against quality teams. Yeah, they had some scrubs in the middle, like the Bengals when Lamar put up, that great game, and they had the Rams in there. The Rams, they're not going back to the Super Bowl like they did last year. We understand that, but still, we had high expectations for this team, and they definitely haven't been what we've expected, but you see what they did. You see what the Ravens did. They went into L.A. and put on a show. They embarrassed the Rams on their home field. Lamar just had an MVP moment, and he's playing against all these big teams, and every time they have a big matchup, you get the same thing from the Ravens. You get the same thing from Lamar. They are consistent. They play their style of the ball. They're not going to try and get too cute, in 3rd and 4th and short situations and try and pass the ball and catch you off guard. They're going to do what they do best. They know their strengths, and they play to their strengths. That's one thing that I have really noticed is helping the Ravens be so dominant right now and be so consistent throughout this season. So you see how I feel about Lamar. Obviously, I've raved about him, and really everybody in the NFL who's covering it, whether you're a fan of the league, is raving about Lamar right now because he's doing things that we haven't seen before, and he's able to maintain it. Hopefully he stays healthy, because if he stays healthy, his career and the trajectory he's on, he could be a once-in-a-lifetime player, something we really haven't seen, and he could be a part of the revolution of the position because, like I said, they're changing the way the QB position is viewed, and they're changing the way we look at that normal, the model for the QB position. Usually we think of it as a 6'4", 6'5", white guy, strong arm who can stay in the pocket, but these quarterbacks are changing the game. You got to look at Russell Wilson. He's a vet. He's the oldest of these black quarterbacks that we're raving about. The other guys are really young. DeShaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, and then Patrick Mahomes. These are all younger guys who've been in the league 2, 3, and 4 years. But Russ, he's a vet. He's been there, done that. He has a Super Bowl. He has 2 Super Bowl appearances. But he's never really gotten that love as far as the MVP conversation goes. But this season, people are paying attention to Russ. And really, I think Russ has been doing this for the Seahawks for years. There's been years where we said, he doesn't have an offensive line. He has no running game. But he was still putting up big numbers. And whoever his receiving core was, he was making things happen on the field. It just was hard for him because he didn't have much help. Now he has a little bit more help on the offensive side of the ball, and the defense, which has always been pretty good. I think they're better than they have been in recent years. They had to kind of rebuild or just really find themselves again after the Legion of Boom left. But they added guys over the offseason like Jadeveon Clowney right before the beginning of the season, so that defense is shored up. They're looking real good. But Russ is finally getting the love he deserves as far as when we talk about the best quarterbacks in the NFL, the elite, the top tier quarterbacks. We've always had Brady, Breeze, and then really after that, of course Aaron Rodgers as well. And after that, it's kind of like another tier. And I feel like Russ has always kind of been in that shuffle in the next tier, or even maybe a third tier. He hasn't garnered as much respect as I think he actually deserves. But people this year have opened their eyes. Seattle, the number 2 seed currently in the NFC behind the Saints. They're tied record-wise. They're tied with San Francisco in the NFC West, but they do have the tiebreaker after that overtime win against San Francisco at Levi Stadium. That was a terrific game, one of the best games of the season. The other game that I would say would be the best game so far this year was the first Monday night game of the year. It was the first Monday night game of the year. It was the Saints versus the Texans. Like one of those young quarterbacks we're talking about, DeShaun Watson, was the quarterback for the Texans in that game. That finish was one of the most thrilling finishes you'll see in the NFL. The last 4 plays, I think there were 6 points scored in the last 4 plays of that game. It was crazy how that game ended. But regardless, Russ always comes through when it's a big game, big moment, prime time. When the Seahawks are on TV, Russ puts on a show. And when it's those clutch moments in those big games, you can rely on Russ. So Russ is finally getting the recognition, the respect he's deserved for the past 4, 5, 6 years. He's finally getting that recognition, that love, but it's definitely warranted. And then you have DeShaun Watson. He's fresh off a great victory versus the New England Patriots. The only 2 teams to beat the Patriots this season are Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens and DeShaun Watson and the Houston Texans. So those 2 black quarterbacks, they're taking down the Patriots. Now we have questions about the Patriots. Of course, the offense has a lot to be desired. The defense is great, one of the top defenses in the NFL, along with San Francisco and Buffalo. A lot of people are saying the strength of the Patriots' schedule was very favorable. It's one reason they have so many wins so far this season. And since they played some real contenders, they are 2-2. They started off 8-0, but in their last 4, they're now 2-2. So as the competition is picked up, those flaws that maybe didn't show against lesser competition are definitely showing now, and the Patriots have to get that together before the playoffs start. In years past, even when they look rocky, once it got towards this time of the year, we know the Patriots are going to turn things on, but we haven't seen that yet. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Only time will tell. But now to Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, they're 8-4. The Chiefs are. They're leading the AFC West. They are comfortable. Have a 2-game lead. They just blew out the Raiders 40-9, I believe was the score on Sunday. Mahomes missed 2 games this year with, I believe, an ankle injury. Yeah, it was an ankle injury. It happened on a QB sneak, and his ankle got rolled over in the pile. Even though he's not putting up those crazy numbers he put up last year, over 5,000 pass yards, 50 passing touchdowns, his impact is still felt. He's still making those highlight reel type plays, throwing it from crazy arm angles, no look passes. You can still expect that once or twice a game from Mahomes. And really for him, the future's so bright. I mean, him and Jackson are just going to change this game. And you can't forget about Watson, but those 3 young black quarterbacks are just going to do so much for this game and change the game so much the way it's viewed. They already are. You can't forget about Dak Prescott, though. Dak Prescott is currently leading the NFL in pass yards. Now, the Cowboys are up and down. They're fluttering. They started off 3-0, and since then they're 3-6, which they currently sit at 6-6 on the season right now. And they play the Chicago Bears tonight on Thursday Night Football at Soldier Field. That'll be a big one for Dak and the Cowboys. But coming into the season, in the offseason, a lot of the talk is Dak going to get that big contract? And there's a report that he turned down $30 million, and he's going to, request somewhere around $40 million a year. And a lot of people were trying to determine whether that was the right choice for Dak not to sign before the beginning of the season or not. But he bet on himself, and it looks pretty good right now. Like I said, he's the leading passer in the league. A lot of that has to do with the play calling. A lot of people are saying that Zeke should be getting more carries because that team is built to be a running team. But regardless, Dak has put up the numbers this year, and you can't blame I won't say failure because the season isn't, a complete failure yet, but you can't blame where the Cowboys stand right now totally on Dak because he's doing what he's supposed to. He's had some rough games like the game against the Patriots, but regardless, he's leading the league in pass yards right now, and he's earning himself a big contract during this offseason. He might get franchised by the Cowboys, but come on. You didn't give him the money before the beginning of the season. Well, I guess you tried to give him the money, but you're definitely going to have to give it to him now. I wouldn't franchise Dak. Just give that man the money he deserves, and you continue to build with this roster. You have a Super Bowl roster in terms of just on paper the talent, in terms of a 22-man starting lineup when you account for the 11 men on both sides of the ball. This was probably the most talented team on paper. But when they play winning teams with a 500 or better record, they haven't won this season. It's been rough for the Cowboys. They look great, and Dak puts up all these great numbers. Those great numbers I talked about, they're kind of look inflated because though all of his big games have came against lesser competition, teams who currently don't have winning records. But like I said, Dak is doing his thing. It's not his fault. A lot of it has to do with coaching. Jerry Jones had some very strong things to say in regards to the future of Jason Garrett after they lost. It wasn't the loss to the Bills. It was the game before that when they lost. I can't remember who they lost to, but they had a big loss. Oh, yeah, it was the game versus the Patriots. After that loss, he had a lot to say, and really basically he's saying that Garrett's might coach in the league next year, but it won't be for my Dallas Cowboys. That's what I got. That's what I'm gotten away from what Jerry said, and really, how could you not after listening to what he said and the way he said it? He's definitely frustrated. He wants another Super Bowl. He knows time is running out. He's 77 years old, but he wants to win another Super Bowl, and if he's going to do that, right now might be the window because this is the one of the more talented teams he's had in recent memory, especially since those teams that were winning Super Bowls back in the 90s. So it's time for the Cowboys to win now. But that man, Dak Prescott, Dakota Rain Prescott, is doing everything he can to help this team win. And you can't forget about Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is one of the better stories of the 2019-2020 NFL season. Drew Brees was hurt in the first week of the season against the Rams. His thumb kind of hit Aaron Donald's helmet, I believe. I hit Aaron Donald's helmet on a follow-through, and he was out. He missed 6 weeks. But while he was out, Teddy Bridgewater was 5-0. He led the Saints to a 5-0 record in Brees' absence. It really didn't look like they missed a beat. They even had a couple games without Alvin Kamara. They had Latavius Murray back there, and he had like a 100-yard rushing game when they were at Soldier Field against the Bears. And really, I mean, they beat who else did they beat? They beat the Seahawks during that time when Drew was out, when Teddy was leading the offense. It didn't look like they lost a beat. It looked like the same Saints in terms of their performance on the field. Before the beginning of the season, in the offseason, Bridgewater was offered big money by the Dolphins to become the starting quarterback there in Miami. But he chose to pass that up, and New Orleans was able to convince him to come back and getting him to think maybe he had a future in New Orleans. Maybe Brees still feels like he can play, still wants to play, and comes back next season. And Bridgewater ends up playing somewhere else. But regardless of the fact, the way he performed in Drew Brees' absence definitely earned him a big contract. I'm thinking somewhere in between 18 and $20 million a year. Since he's a quarterback and the demand for quarterbacks are high, it's at least going to be 20 to me. I think he's 20 million and up. I don't think he reaches 30 million because we haven't seen him as a consistent starter. Yeah, that 5-game stretch was nice, but we haven't seen him as a consistent starter since he was with the Vikings. But we know he got injured, and Case Keenum and Sam Bradford ended up coming in for him with Minnesota, and he got shipped away. But he's made the most of his experience there in New Orleans. I think he really likes the culture, even though he hasn't been starting. That's one reason he did stay there, because of the team's success and the overall culture of that organization. But Teddy, he worked his way into a big contract this year, and so I'm excited for him. And when you look at other quarterbacks in the league, Jacoby Brissett, nobody expected him to be the starter for the Colts coming into this year. But Andrew Luck really came out of nowhere and announced his retirement before the beginning of the season. And this is late into training camp. This is dang near. It might have been preseason when he admitted that, or right before the preseason. And Brissett, he's done great stepping into that role as a starter. He's been injured a couple games, so Brian Hoyer had to come in and replace him for a few games, but he's looked great. Jameis Winston, even though his performance has been up and down and he does consistently throw interceptions, he is second in the league in pass yards, right behind Prescott. So black quarterbacks are making noise in this league. I feel like they're the future of the league. I feel like the performance of guys like Lamar Jackson is really going to have an impact on the NFL draft in years to come. You can see a guy like Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma get a chance to be drafted and actually play a lot in this league, whereas in the future he would maybe get drafted, but people would suggest he switch positions. Like they said, Lamar Jackson should be a running back or wide receiver, and now we see what he's doing at the position. So I think this could help guys in the future as far as their draft stock, where they're drafted. Lamar was first round. You might see more guys go first round and earlier first round who have more of his skill set. Kyler Murray has had a good rookie season in Arizona. I think it's great that he has a veteran and a total professional like Larry Fitzgerald in that locker room, and a guy who he can throw to and rely on. And I think if you look at a guy like Justin Fields, who's at Ohio State right now, who's currently the number one team in the country, go Bucks, the emergence of the black quarterbacks could also help him. He is a dual threat quarterback, but I think what he wants to do first, he's a pass first guy. He thinks pass. He's gonna try and find the open guy, go through his progressions first, and then he'll take off. Or if it's a RPO, run pass option, he's going to read that and he might take off. But I think he prefers the handoff. Of course, you're going to make the right play based on whatever the defender's doing, but I think he would prefer to hand the ball off every time. But the emergence of these quarterbacks can help a guy like him because he's a versatile quarterback. He's pass first, but he can run. So that's somebody. It kind of reminds me of DeShaun Watson, those two Georgia quarterbacks and stuff like that. But the emergence of these quarterbacks is great. It's the year of the black quarterback. I'm loving it. Black quarterbacks have been thought about so long as the running quarterback or the athletic quarterback, not so much the prototype or the successful quarterback who can sustain it for a long period of time. But I think these guys now are changing the way we view the position, and they're changing the way the NFL will be played for now and years to come. Shout out to Jason Reed for seeing that before the beginning of the season. And you guys can Google that. Look up the year of the black quarterback. Uninterrupted has been updating that. Not uninterrupted. The Undefeated has been updating that page throughout the year with information about the black quarterback. We've been talking about Russ. They've been talking about Lamar as well here recently in their emergence as far as the MVP race. So I would definitely encourage you to go check that out. It's the year of the black quarterback in the NFL. I'm loving it and hope to see more of it. I'll be back very soon. I won't make y'all wait a month again to hear from me. But stay with me. Stay tuned. Keep giving me the feedback and the support. Signing out for the 5 Seconds on the Clock podcast. It's your boy, Brandon Williams. Ya dig.